How do we use AI
without letting the robots take over?
What if the real secret to getting better results when you use AI isn't about finding the perfect AI tool, but learning how to work with the tools that you have to create better results? AI isn't a magic wand, and it's definitely not a shortcut. It's a tool that, when used thoughtfully and with clear goals and intentions, it can actually enrich your creative process, not replace it. In this episode, I'm talking with Sonya Sigler. She's an executive coach, intellectual property lawyer, and someone who's been working with AI technology in business settings long before AI became headline news. She has seen firsthand how AI can transform the way we work. Sonya shares insights from her own experience, along with practical ways that we can get the most out of our AI tools. If you're a solo business owner or a service provider and you've been feeling frustrated that, now there's another new tool that I've got to figure out how to learn, and you're feeling pressured that if you don't learn it, you're just going to get left behind, then this conversation will give you a refreshing and practical perspective. I was so inspired after we recorded this episode that I'm now paying for ChatGPT, and I'm committed to learning how to use it more effectively to help me streamline multiple areas of my business and content creation process without losing my soul and creativity. Oh, if you missed the first episode in this AI series with Maggie Patterson, you definitely want to go back and give that a listen after you finish this. Let's get to it. Sonya Sigler is an executive coach, strategy consultant, operations, and legal executive. But wait, there's more. She's also an organizer of chaos, which is just my favorite description. Her extensive experience as an operations and legal executive ranges from startups to new business ventures inside public companies. She's been an in-house IP and corporate lawyer for over 25 years, and she started her legal career as an attorney at Sega. I mean, how cool is that? And we discovered last week when we met in real life at an event that we'd actually met virtually when she was a guest on one of my clients' podcasts. So, Sonya, welcome to the Brassy Broadcast.
Yay. Thanks, Jen. I'm happy to be here chatting.
Okay, we're going to start with the first question I'm asking all my guests on this AI series, and that is, how would you describe your current relationship with AI?
Oh, love, hate, complicated, embrace it because it's not going away. Like so many relationships.
Why is that? Why do you have all of those feelings about it?
I've been in AI. I was general counsel and CFO of a company that made an AI software starting in 2002.
So it's been around a lot longer than I think most people are really aware.
Yeah, there are different kinds of tools out there, and some of them are really amazingly powerful. And the ones in the legal field use the data that's there. So the data analytics craze and the sexiness of that has come and gone. And now we've moved over to the sexiness of generative AI, which is a completely different animal. Yes, they have some commonalities, but the predictive coding and the analytics, it uses the data that you have. So it's mining what you have or what you've collected. Generative AI is a completely different model, and it makes up stuff. Like it generates the information. So when I say love-hate relationship, I really love the analytical tools because it's helping you find the information. Now, I love the generative tools, but you really got to pay attention because they make up shit.
Yeah.
So you really have to pay more attention. And with either set of tools, you're training the tool to work the way you want with the knowledge and the information that you put in. So it's basically like trying to get what's in your head out and using the tool and training it. So the love-hate relationship is people want to use it without doing the training. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
That never sounds like a plan for success. Where do you think we're missing that training piece? Because I feel like sometimes with these new tools, we don't even know what we don't know yet.
These tools are changing so quickly that we can't. And that's why it's an iterative process. And that's why we have to train it. And that's why we have to train it again tomorrow and train it again the next day and train ourselves to really understand what's changed in the tool. I mean, look at Microsoft Word. Like we use like 1% of the capabilities of that tool. really. And it's been around how long? 30, 35 years? I don't know. It's been
Yeah.
around a while. And we still don't use all the functionality that's in there. And so what do you have to do? You have to take a training class. Who has time for that? No one, right? And who's going to sit down and watch a training? Because, they might have another Clippy or whatever that paper clip was that annoyed everybody.
I forgot about that.
So no one's going to sit around and do that training. Well, the tools that are out today, they're no different than that. They're changing. Like literally almost every single day when I log into ChatGPT, it says an update is available.
Yeah.
Sometimes more than once a day. So think about that for just a minute. If your tool is changing every day and you trained on it 2 months ago, what are you not getting? What are you not using? What are you not doing with the tool that you could be doing? And do you need to change the way you're training it or using it? Or do you need to give it a different context? Like if you're a law firm and you're writing a client letter, like I know me personally, my husband called it make Sonya friendlier. Because being a lawyer in e-discovery, my emails are one-liners or one words. And I don't put all the fluff in there, and I'm not a fluffy person. So it helps me write a nicer, more receptive letter. Like people are going to read it and be like, oh yeah, okay.
She's so nice.
As opposed to, why is she, like the one-liners, why is she so mad at me? It's not. That's how I was trained in terms of where's your email going to end up. It's going to end up in litigation. It's going to end up on the front page of the newspaper. Like I was just trained not to put everything in email. So the love-hate relationship is I love the tools because they're amazing and can help you. I hate it because people don't do the training necessary to use them effectively and properly.
So how do you approach it in your own business, like as an executive coach? How are you using it and what's your approach to training it?
I've been using it probably for about 18 months. And I'll give you an example. I write a neighborhood newspaper column once a month, or magazine. It's not really a newspaper. Comes out once a month, and I write the cover story. So I interview a family, write the cover story. I have a list of questions, and then I write a Making a Difference column. I have a list of questions. And so what I do now is I take my interview notes and I put it in there and I say, draft me a 300 or 350 word article using my tone of voice based on what you know about me and this column and the information I've given you already. Because I have 5 years of columns I can share with it.
Oh, wow.
And so I can train it to write in my voice. And so what's happened is I've taken a 2-hour process to do the interview, write the notes, and then write the article. I've taken that 2-hour process and made it a 15-minute process. And for me with ADHD, it's super easy to edit something as opposed to stare at a blank page.
So true.
So that blank page is no longer a deterrent. Like my laundry is done and the kitchen is clean, like all of those things when I sit down to write, gone. Like I literally am excited to sit down and do it because I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. I might not have said it exactly that way. Or, oh, that's great. Let me just, edit it a little and it'll sound better. Or I forgot this point, or it didn't include this point. Like, so it doesn't know, like one of the hate relationships with the tool is that it doesn't know what the true priority or takeaway is. It will say what a takeaway is, but it doesn't have we weren't even talking about that in the meeting. It was just a side conversation, but the software sees it as a takeaway. And you're like, yeah, we did talk about that, but that's not going to go in the meeting notes, right?
Oh, yeah. I've seen that happen with the podcast show notes that get generated. Like, that really wasn't a thing.
Yeah, exactly. It inflates things and deflates things, and maybe it should be reversed. So you have to have that judgment. You can't let the judgment go out the window. And I have to go. So what I do is then I go back and reread my interview notes. And then I reread the article and I'm like, okay, I don't want to say that, or I don't want to include that, or, oh, it missed the boat over here. Like I really need to put that in there. So I've taken that 2-hour process down to 15 minutes, even with all that iteration, even with all that editing, and even with all that judgment in the process. So I think it's a brilliant use of technology to help us do better, spend less time on the little things, and enable us to do more of the hard strategic thinking.
So it feels like you're using it almost as a collaborative partner rather than write this thing for me from scratch.
Okay, so I think it's hard to write things from scratch with the tool because it doesn't have the context It doesn't have the knowledge. So the training process and using it. So what I've done over the last 18 months is train it. So now it thinks more like me with this particular one. But if I say draft board minutes from this transcript, I'm going to get like 50% of the way there. Right. And so sometimes I have to gauge, is it going to be more trouble than it's worth to edit the tool's output? Or should I just have started over? Should I have started from scratch? So in the training process, it learns, okay, this is not important. This is important. And you can put let's say I take that article that I edited, I can put that back in and say, here was my final product. Thanks for your help in getting there. So now it knows what edits I made to its work, and it can keep that in the vault for the next time.
Oh, that's interesting.
It really is an iterative process. And I've written books. I've written Welcome to the Next Level, and I've written What's Next for My Career. I published just a year ago 30 Days to Better Self-Care. I'm about to publish 30 Days of Gratitude. So what I've done is I've taken my work, so not just the articles, but I've taken my work and I say, read my book, take this information, take your time, and then draft me a blog entry of 500 words on personal branding. So that is one way you can train the tools. If you're an author, if you're an attorney who's written blogs, and you have a body of work like that, it's better to start from what you have already written so it can learn your voice, it can learn your brand and what your persona is. Like my name for my business is Practical. So what do? Practical, actionable advice. So when I ask it to draft a blog that I'm going to post, that's what I ask it for. Please write it in my tone of voice. And if you've forgotten, it's practical, actionable advice. So you can just give it instructions. It's really you have to think of it as a eager intern. Intern's great resource to have, but you got to give them some direction because they're like, oh, I can give the world to you, but I don't know how to do it. Right? Like they really it's so great to have that resource. So think of I'm going to just use ChatGPT. Think of it as an eager intern who's happy to help you, but they don't know the context of what you want. They don't know, like if you ask them to go get you coffee, they don't know that you don't want black coffee. They don't know that you want the frou-frou half calf, with the foam on top and, whatever. I don't even drink coffee, so that's probably not a good example. But
you had me. I would have believed it.
So the intern doesn't know how you like your coffee, right?
Yeah.
So think of it that way, is you're training it. And sometimes you have to reiterate it to the intern, right? Sometimes you have to tell them again. Sometimes they're like, oh, I thought you meant this, but you really meant that. So you just have to go through that process. And people are like, oh, how do I even train it? I'm like, it's an app. It's going to retain the information that's in there, even the free versions, retain your information in there. So you asked, how do I use it or with clients or in the coaching side of things? One of the things I do is if let's say I'm working with someone on retooling their resume or LinkedIn, we get so wedded to what we actually did and the work we've done that we see it one way. These tools help us see it a different way. And you can feed in the job description, you can feed in your resume, you can feed in whatever else you want and have it rewrite an accomplishment. You can have it rewrite a description. You can have it rewrite the experience. I mean, you still all want it to be true, obviously. Right. You're not making up stuff that you didn't do, but it helps just rewrite it in a way that you might not have thought of because you're so wedded to the experience itself. You're like, but I did this. And so I find it to be a brilliant tool for that. Or when I was, before I was coaching and consulting, I was looking for a full-time job and I was general counsel and I was running operations. And so when I went to look for a job, that's the jobs I was applying for. And I was getting interviews and I was having, really amazing time doing that, but I wasn't getting job offers. So I was like, what the heck is going on? I've got all this experience. I've run companies. I've been CFO. I've been the general counsel. Like, what is going on? So finally, a recruiter took pity on me and she's like, I don't know what to do with you. She's like, do you want to be general counsel or do you want to be COO? And I was like, yes. Yes, that's what I've done. I'm dual. I'm business side and legal side. Like, and they were just like, you don't fit into this little box. I don't know what to do with you. And so I ended up having to draft 2 different resumes, one for legal and one for operations. So, and ChatGPT didn't exist at the time, but now I could feed my resume and I could feed I have a, like a spreadsheet of experience. I could put those in and say, hey, can you draft me an operations centric resume concentrating on these things? I'm going to get something that I'm going to be able to use, right? As opposed to come up with something cold, which nobody wants to do that for a resume. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk about yourself and your accomplishments and achievements. But having ChatGPT do that for you and then you can edit it, so much better in the process. So that's one of the ways I work with my clients. And I don't put client names in there. So that's one way you can train it and you can pull the information across the world to come in and help you rewrite that. So that's one way I do it. The other way is I help reframe what other roles would this person be good at? Because we don't, like, the job descriptions out there are so varied. Like you could say program manager and you've got 5 descriptions and they have nothing in common. There's a lot of information out there. So I think taking a couple job descriptions that you like and that sound like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. And then having it reorder or rewrite your experience to read into that. So the what's in it for me, like as a hiring manager, to read your resume and be like, oh, I totally get it. This person can help me do X, Y, and Z. So they're really understanding that your experience fits into that. It's also really good to use these tools when you are reinventing yourself or you are changing industries. Let's say you were in hospitality and now you're going into finance. Like big leap, right?
Yeah.
But let me tell you, the transferable skills are there. Those durable, transferable skills, all there still. So how do you rewrite that information that appeals to someone in that other industry so that they understand that you know how to do the function? You just haven't done it in this industry.
Oh, that's such a good use case.
Yeah.
Love it. Going back to feeding it the information, when you were talking about putting your book in there, what concerns do you have as far as like intellectual property and training the AI and all of that kind of stuff?
I think it is all up in the air from a regulatory standpoint and from a enforcement infringement standpoint. So I was okay putting my book in there because I want it to know me. And my book is out there anyway. So it could have been in the system already. Like I just didn't know it. But I want it to have that context for me. And so my book is out there. You can put it on a copy machine and take it, or you can download it for free and you get the PDF of it. It's out there.
Yeah.
So I am not so worried about that. Okay. But if I were more proprietary about that information, then I would have deeper concerns about sharing it in the tool itself, because it's going to use it in training the model. And in that training the model, everyone else is going to have access to that as part of what's being trained. So there are 2 things that you can do in ChatGPT right now. You can say toggle on, toggle off for training the software. So if you don't want it to use what you're doing and what your iterative process is, toggle that button right off, right? Under data control, just turn it off. You don't want to share it. You don't want it going back into the system. The second thing you can do is use a temporary chat. So where you put your information in, that box turns black. So you can type in your information, you can use it, and then when you're done with that chat, it goes away and doesn't save it.
Cool. I did not even know about that.
Okay, so those are 2 things right now you can use to minimize whether your information or private information is being used to train the system. So let's say I did want to use a resume and I did want to point it, like I'll just use myself in this example. I had to write a speaker bio a couple days ago. It was so painful. Oh my God. Well, now I have a library of speaker bios. I've been doing this for 20 years. So I have a library of speaker bios. And like, if I'm speaking on wellness, I don't want to give you my lawyer bio, right? Like I want to give you something that's focused on wellness and why I talk about that, because being a lawyer is stressful and it got me into health trouble. So that's why. But If I'm doing that, I want to say, let's just say this was for women in e-discovery. So it was a legal conference. So I wanted to use my background as a lawyer and in the e-discovery space. So I said, use my LinkedIn profile and here's my legal resume. Write me a speaker bio of, I think I had 150 words or 200 words. Write me a speaker bio for this conference. It's a group of lawyers. It's a group of women. It's focused on innovation and collaboration, like whatever it was, like I gave it the information and the context. And it spit something out. And I was like, yeah, that's not exactly it. So I tweaked it a little and you could go a couple rounds, but it was better for me than starting from a blank page.
Yeah. I think just having that piece of it alone, I know I feel just much better because, yeah, that blank page can feel really overwhelming at times.
Absolutely. I think, going back to something you asked me earlier is it better if it's tweaking something or is it better if it's just drafting something cold? It's definitely better tweaking than it is if you just said, write me a bio and I didn't give it any context and I didn't give it access to, or I didn't give it the direction, I should say, to look at my LinkedIn profile. So it's really good. Like if I ask the question, what should I include in my bio that's going to this organization? Or what should I include in my speaker bio that's going on Amazon? It's going to give me an outline of things to cover. It's brilliant at that. So it breaks it down into manageable chunks for you. So then you could go write that if you were going to actually draft it all yourself and draft it cold. I find that is a really good use. What should I include in my bio? Then you can say, can you draft me a 150-word bio that covers these three things? Giving it that true direction, like context and, boxing it so it's not the universe, it's going to give you good information. So the more vague you are, the more vague you're going to get back, right? So garbage in, garbage out. If you are not giving that context, it's just going to make up something. And so you can test it out. I mean, this is hilarious, actually. Just go into ChatGPT and say, hey, using what you know about me, write me a 150-word bio and see what it comes up with. And if you don't say using what you know about me and just say, write a bio for me, it's going to make up some funny stuff, right? Because it doesn't know what to do. And it's only going to, it's just going to do what it's trained to do, which is make up things, generate information. So if you give it context and you direct it a little, it's going to give you much, much better results.
Well, and as we were exchanging emails, one of the prompts that you shared with me was you had asked it, is this your best work? And I was like, oh, you challenged it a little bit. How did it feel about that?
It's great. It's unemotional, right? The software is unemotional. So it's not going to take offense like the intern would be like,
right.
Oh, and you get the eye roll and then you get like, no, it's not my best work. I'll go back and edit it. Okay. So you can have a fun iterative process. Like you can say, okay, pretend you're the cranky senior partner and you've just read my blog article about your case that you won a settlement of, X million dollars, and ask it, is this your best work? Or pretend I'm the CFO. What else do I want to know about this? Like you can give it personas and say, okay, I want you to pretend I'm the cranky senior partner and I'm the first year associate and I've given you a draft of a set of interrogatories. You can ask it to go rounds. Like, okay, pretend that they've had this discussion 3 times and they've gone around and around and around. Now give me the results. So you're making it do the thinking, right? You're making it challenge itself. Yeah. And so you are having it do its best work. So one of the things I ask it, did you make anything up?
Oh, that's a great question.
Did you do your best work? Is this your best work? Am I missing anything? Is there something I should include that I didn't address already? And let me tell you, it will give you good information back. So remember when I said, if you don't want to have it draft something cold, have it give you an outline. Brilliant at that. So same thing when you're asking it, did I miss anything? Is there anything else I should include? Like if you're doing marketing materials, you're going to have, does this meet the audience need? Like if you're trying to find, like I have one client who does Social Security disability and her sweet spot is truckers aged 50 to 60. So an example for her for a blog draft, she would be like, would this resonate with truckers who are between 50 and 60? So that's a question she's going to use to train it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can give it that context and give it that information, and it's going to give you better information back.
I like that question of asking it, will this resonate with a particular audience? Because as much as I love it, I feel like a lot of times what we get back, like there's just no heart and soul in that.
It's fluff.
Yeah.
And it's not authentic. So, that's the other thing. Oh, I'm so glad you led me down this path. I concentrate and I do a lot of training for authentic personal branding. And so you get to control the story and the narrative that's out there about you. There's one out there, whether you control it or not, but you get to influence it, right? With the words that you use. So when I talk about being authentic, it's really important that I'm authentic. And so people are like, how can you use a tool to draft your stuff? How are you being authentic? I'm like, because I've trained it to be that way. I've trained it to use my voice and give practical advice. I've given it my materials that I've written from scratch and said, use this as your guide. And so I know if I read something and it doesn't resonate with me, that it's not authentic, right? Then I was like, okay, let me fix this. How would I say that? And so it is an iterative process, and you do need to train it. And you do need to train it on the things that are important for you and your brand. And I think people expect it to work miracles. This is not an easy button. There is no one size fits all. It's not a panacea. It's not going to solve all your problems. Like literally you have to train it, and you have to get what's in your brain out onto the page or into the tool. And so when you have an audience, this is so great. You can train it. You can make your own GPTs. You can make your own to see, this is my branding. And so you give it all the information. And so you can say, this is my ideal client. This is where I usually find them. So you can give them that information. And now they have a GPT that's your brand and your base.
That's very cool.
So these tools are becoming so much more sophisticated. It's so brilliant. And then there are versions that are for productivity. There are versions for helping you plan your time. So there are so many plugins and so many versions of this that you just have to experiment and play with it. And I feel like we're so overwhelmed, so inundated with information that it's really hard to be like, oh, I got to learn one more thing.
Yeah.
I got to experiment and do one more thing. And I have many hobbies, and it's like, now this has to be another one. I just have to look at it as like, oh, I need to spend 15 minutes a day training my system. Or you're going to love this. Right before I met you in person, I was in Nashville recording my online courses, and I was playing around with, what would be really amazing is if I had an Oracle deck to go along with my Practical Career Mentor books. So Welcome to the Next Level, What's Next for My Career. And then the third book, which is not all the way written yet, Set Yourself Up for Success. I'm like, it would be really amazing to have a set of Oracle cards to go along with this, because you pull one thing out and you're like, oh, am I being authentic? Like the card on authenticity, for example. So I was like, let's see if it can draft a set of Oracle cards. And so I had it, I just gave it some instructions, and I said, use my current books and use the, 43-page outline for my next book as the direction, pull out. And I was like, okay, do I want a set of 40 cards or 48 cards or whatever? And it gave me a list of suggestions, and it grouped them by topic.
Oh, cool.
And so I was like, oh, that's so brilliant about self-care. It's so brilliant about celebrating your achievements. It's so brilliant about being authentic, because it took my material.
Yeah.
Not to just pat myself on the back and say I'm brilliant, but it took what I had. And so from a standpoint of, does it match what I want?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was like, let's call it a 90% match. But if I hadn't given my book, and I haven't given my second book and my outline for the third book, like, it would have given me crap back.
Yeah.
And I would have had to spend so much time editing. I'm like, do I even want to say that? No. So the more you give it the context and the information, and I know I probably sound like a broken record about this, but it is an iterative process. And you do have to train it to really get what's in your head out into the tool. So all of that was a long-winded way to say it can be brilliant, and there are no limits to how you can actually use the tool, whatever you think up. And now it's like connected to Canva and some other tools. And so you can, the sky's the limit. So it just is, how do you want to be using it? So I hear like in my head, oh my gosh, now I'm going to have to learn one more thing, which is fine. I like learning. I'm always taking classes. And I'm like, I'll just put this on the list. And so over the last year, I've taken, I don't know, a dozen different classes, dozen different trainings from people who are training about AI. And I was like, what can I learn from this person? Oh, that's a really amazing tip. So I think it behooves us to talk to each other, and then we can share those best practices. Because when something is new and innovative, like all of those good practices are evolving, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to share those with each other. So talks like today, we're just sharing those. One of the things we didn't talk about, we talked about the training, you and the tool. We talked about the iterative process and how that is good for both of us. The thing I don't want to lose sight of is, and you alluded to it when we chatted about it being fluffy and the results are like, yeah. So early AI output was like, so fluffy. I'm like, I can't even make an outline from this blog. Like, what even are you trying to say? There are a lot of words, and yeah, I read the words and they're English, but it doesn't make any sense. And so I saw some stuff like that, and I was like, okay, that is a blog you should not have published. Like, take it back. This was an industry trade group in the legal space. And I was like, okay, that you should take that right off your website because it doesn't meet your standards. It wasn't authentic. It didn't meet their standards in terms of what they want to be putting out. So I'm like, you got to have some judgment in here.
Yeah.
You can't just let your judgment go out the window. You can't just, you can't let your level of experience just go by the wayside. You actually have to look at it. And you asked from a copyright and intellectual property standpoint. Well, let's look at the ethical side of things. Some people are like, oh, well, you're having ChatGPT draft your stuff. I'm like, no, I've trained it to put a draft out for me to iterate on. It's rare that I just take the output and that's what goes to the public, because that's unlikely to happen given the tool and how it makes up things, right?
Because we're not going to publish what the intern wrote without reviewing it.
Exactly. So your judgment and your experience have to be part of this process.
Yeah.
And I have been preaching this message since 2002. So I feel like I've shouted it from the rooftops for years and years. And people haven't embraced it. It's because it's a new tool. And so they're all excited about the tool, but they forget that, oh, I have to check the results. Oh, I have to validate the facts. I mean, there are cases out there that said lawyers didn't check the case sites and they were made up. They did some research and were like, oh, I can't find the case, but it must be okay because it told me that. No. Just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
How long have we been hearing that?
So we can't forget our judgment. And now it's even louder. We need to hear it louder, right?
Yeah. 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 I've had it give me statistics on things. And I've gone back and I've been like, where did you get this? Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So you actually, this is a really, really good point. You actually have to ask it. So ChatGPT is really great at summarizing things. You have to ask it for the actual quote. So give me quotes. Like when you're asking it and you specify the output, give me the quotes. Like if you're asking it to summarize a new regulation or a changed regulation, you want to, like, let's say you want the output to be a chart. Give it the chart headings and just say, please don't summarize. Give me the actual quote. And then when I ask it if things are missing or I ask if it made up things, those are all really great techniques to suss out what it's done. And so I will ask it after I'm done with the making a difference draft. So I've trained it now for 18 months and I've trained it on 5 years of content that I've produced. I will ask it, did you make anything up? And usually the answer back is no, I used your interview notes and I used what I know about you in making a difference column, and this is the draft. So nice. I've gotten a process down. It didn't just happen that way. The first draft I got out, I was like, oh, I can't use that. But I can use parts of it. And so it was still helpful. It still didn't take the same 2 hours. So still it's a time saver. But you do have to check your work, and you do have to check sources, and you do need to ensure that your output meets whatever standards you're meeting, whether it's an ethical standard or a legal standard or your own, I'm publishing a blog standard. Like, it needs to meet that, and you have to validate it and check the work.
What's the one thing that you think a lot of business owners are missing about AI?
I think they see it as something new and they don't want to have to learn something new, so they don't even do it. And they are missing an opportunity to help them solve those pain points, solve those problems that are bottlenecks, and to do the work that's repetitive and lower level thinking, to be able to do that strategic thinking, to be able to use, their brain power. And so I think they're missing the boat if they don't use the tool at all to spend that time on the higher level strategic thinking, problem solving work. Because we didn't become lawyers to do all this stuff. We became lawyers to do the high level thinking and solve problems for people. So I think, if anything, and maybe we just need to do a roundtable where we come together on Friday nights, or not Friday, let's say Tuesday nights, and we use the tool together, all in parallel play, to draft a blog. And then we pass it around and we read it, and we're like, does this sound like me? Does this actually have some, practice at it? Because I think if we just start using it and practice it, we've got to be creative in how we're trying to use the tool and check the tool.
I love all of that. Thank you so much for chatting with me about this today.
Now you can see why I have a love-hate relationship with this tool.
Totally. I completely understand it. So for anybody listening that wants to get your books, to learn more about the work that you do, what's the best place to send them to get all of the things?
I think the best place is to do a search for Sonya Sigler, and you'll find me. And Linktree has everything listed more comprehensively than anywhere else. My website has some information on it. LinkedIn has some information on it. But Linktree, I've kind of categorized things. If you want to hear podcasts like this, here's podcasts. If you want to read some white papers, here's some white papers. If you want to learn more about my courses and my books, here's the information. So Linktree is probably the best place to go. And I believe it's S. Sigler. So my first initial and last name.
All right, that's easy enough, and I will make sure to include that in the show notes. So all you have to do is just click the link. If there's one thing I hope you take away from today's conversation, it's this. Working with AI to get your desired results is all about iteration and training. The tools will keep evolving, which means that we have to stay curious and keep experimenting so that we can evolve with them. Your creativity, your voice, your vision, that's what makes your work matter. The tools are just there to support that, not replace it. But you've got to train the tools how to support you. Here's your challenge for the week. Pick one project. Maybe it's a blog post, a podcast outline, or an email you need to send a client. And invite AI to be part of your process. Experiment with it, tweak it, iterate, figure out how it can support you without just completely taking over. And if something from today's episode sparked a new idea, or maybe even gave you a little sigh of relief, I want to hear about it. DM me. I'm hanging out on LinkedIn at Jen Eads, or you can find me on Instagram at BrassyBroadJen. I'll have links to connect with me in the episode description. And if you're feeling a little stuck or bored with your podcast, or you want to learn how to incorporate AI into your workflow to speed things up, but without sucking the soul and originality out of your work, I would love to help. Book a podcast power hour with me. There's a link in the episode description where you can book your session. Thanks for listening. Now get out in the world, have some fun, and do some good.